Hey, Alex.
Yes, Sarah.
Did you know that we live in the suburbs?
No, I always thought we lived like a 10-minute walk from downtown, but then a fancy New York film crew came and told us that we did.
Yes, multiple times. They were like, "Hi, country bumpkins. We're here from the big city to explore your wild sex party ways." Welcome to Mistakes Were Made, a podcast about non-monogamy for messy people like us. I'm Sarah. I'm a queer therapist, parent, and writer.
And I'm her husband and co-host, Alex. I think of myself as a quintessentially suburban dad, like fishing and mowing the lawn, and having multiple romantic partners.
When's the last time you mowed the lawn?
We don't actually have a lawn. I weed whacked it.
And I'm Jessica, here producing. I have never mowed a lawn in my life. And
I do know that because we've lived together at many houses that had lawns.
Yep, don't plan to learn.
Well, we're back, and it's our season finale. We were just discussing how this is the longest season that we've ever done, right?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Season.
Longest season of our lives.
Wait, no, fifth season.
Fifth season.
Fifth
season.
End of season 5.
End of season 5. And we're going out with a bang. Yikes.
Wait,
Where's she going
we
with
came
this?
in with a bang.
We came in, and there's been bangs in
lot of
between as
banging
well.
throughout.
Bang, 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 bang. 19 bangs.
Touching back on this little mini-sode that we did for CNN. So a little backstory about our opener. About a month ago, CNN came and interviewed some poly people about town here in the Seattle area. And
Technically it was CNN Plus.
sorry, CNN Plus.
Like CNN, but better.
I wouldn't know because
Yeah.
anyway. And we couldn't resist because, well, we can't resist a compliment and or attention. And so they came and interviewed us about the podcast and about polyamory.
And filmed us doing the
and filmed us
podcast.
doing the podcast. And even though we have a background in journalism and know how the sausage gets made, kind of, we still were sort of expecting to do a full episode.
Yeah.
And they were going to film the entire thing. I don't know, and put it on the internet. I'm not sure what we're
I just figured they would respectfully keep their cameras rolling for an hour and a half while we did a whole episode. But they were like, nope, you guys could stop. And we're like, oh, okay.
That was like 3 minutes.
Yeah. So that's what that was. And now we're back to finish the job that CNN wouldn't let us finish.
That's right. This is the real story.
Yeah.
The real story that corporate media doesn't want you to hear.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right. They just want you to hear that we live in the suburbs and have sex parties. So today we're talking about the differences in the experience of opening a relationship between men and women. And which one
Who's having more fun?
Which one is easier?
Once and for all, we're going to answer the question. Is it easier for men or women?
Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. What's up?
Yeah. Right. Which, you know what? You're making it sound like a throwaway premise, but it, I think, is interesting.
It's definitely interesting. It's one of those things where it's a cliche for a reason. And if you actually get underneath the cliche, there's a lot at stake.
Yeah. In the mini episode, we were referencing this Guardian article, which is basically like, wow, women actually choose polyamory too. It's not just, men being horn dogs. That was kind of like the idea. And was starting from these like kind of like cliches that aren't even really cliches anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I agree with that.
they don't really give credit to our postmodern sophistication of like the ways that we think about I don't know. Like I feel like most people like are already trying to like at least trying to like end around like binary cliches like that like
Yeah. It's very much in the binary, first of all, and only really talking about relationships where it's men and women, talking about men and women having like the same sort of experiences monolithically, and then applying the assumption that like men, we all know that men are just trying to get away with something and typically like dragging women through this experience. So it was like pretty retrograde from the top.
And I'm actually with it for the first two things because I think those are kind of like, it is broadly true that there are a lot of straight couples, and a large percentage of the couples that open up are men and women couples, and so it's fine to be talking about that, but
Yes.
the sort of like, even if those retrograde like assumptions are true, people who are like poly are probably really trying to transcend them, or are aware of them, and are
Definitely.
thinking about it in a more complex way.
Although in the Lindy West episodes that we've done this season, we were also encountering those same assumptions that, Lindy's partner was forcing her into poly, and it was
Right.
poly under duress. So
Yeah.
I just touched back on that to acknowledge that, like, this is still it's a trope, or it's a concern, or it's in the ether, even though we're all trying to be like pretty aware of it and nuance it.
Yeah.
Because the assumption also in that is that women are not horn dogs, first of all. I take
False.
issue. And that women are just in these sort of disempowered situations where they kind of have to go along with whatever a husband wants to do, which I also just think doesn't really represent what most marriages and
At
partnerships
least
look
not
like.
amongst the coastal elite poly
Yes,
set
that's right.
that we represent. Yeah, true. Also, that article was based in like about couples based in the UK, and we were like observing and thinking about this, that like the like just culture of like sex and relationship, I think, is very different in like the UK and even Canada than it is in the United States. I think partly because of our like Puritan roots. Like there's just like a lot more, I don't know, like slut shaming, I guess.
Yeah,
Right?
it would be interesting to hear someone who had grown up in one of those cultures reflect on that, insofar as I'm like exposed to media and morality from the British Isles. It does seem like they play a lot less with the like taboos that we do in our culture. Like,
Yeah.
American culture is so sex negative, and all of our, like, if you look at kink trends in American culture, it's all just like playing into a lot of that puritanical slut shaming, bad, good, binary stuff. I don't know if that exists in the same way in other like
Yeah.
Western cultures, but I think it's safe to say that we kind of like lead the way.
Yeah. And we're the most religious, probably.
We're very religious.
And
Yeah,
like
that's true.
most,
I think that is true,
kind
yeah.
of like, well, evangelically religious, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was like, what's actually going on here? I'm going to Google this and see what the Google compilation of, yes?
I was just wondering, what did you actually want to understand was going on?
Oh,
Like, what were you
well, I just
curious
went to
about?
the premise of like, is non-monogamy or polyamory harder for men or women? Like,
Yes.
coming from that standpoint of like opening a marriage.
Because that was what was interesting to me about the article, not this whole like men are making us do it thing, but a question that the article kind of pretended like they were going to explore and then didn't, which was, who is it harder for? Who is it easier for? What do we even mean when we say that? It's a cliche, and I think people adhere to different parts of the cliche. Like, it's easier for men, it's easier for women, based on certainly their own experience and some of their own presumptions or fears. So I was like, this is actually an interesting question,
Yeah.
even if the article itself doesn't.
Yeah, and it raises the
Explore it in an interesting way.
underlying question of like, who is it for?
Mhm.
And like being like, surprise, it's for the women is makes me want to know to what extent that's true or not true. So this is what it says, if I may.
Please.
Or a small segment. While women generally receive a much higher volume of matches on dating apps they're talking about, they face significant safety risks and the emotional labor of filtering out low-quality interactions. Men face a much smaller dating pool, but often find higher quality matches once they connect. How does that land for you?
I mean, true. True in a way that's like maybe so true that I forget that it's worth restating. That it's just like, oh yeah, at the beginning, I mean, with my clients, I talk about this all the time because a lot of the couples I work with are people going from monogamy to non-monogamy. And just the first thing that they will say right out the gate is the men will be like, nobody's matching with me. And the women will be like, everybody's matching with me and they all seem crazy. And I'm like, yes, stage one.
Yeah, and maybe worth naming that is jarring when you like are in a couple and you like decide to do something together, and it's kind of like the togetherness, parallelness of it is important, and then you right out the gate have vastly different experiences. You can see how that would be alienating and hard. And you're having those vastly different experiences essentially because of your gender.
Yeah. And I guess it might be worth exploring why. Again, like this is such a kind of obvious statement that I forget that it's worth restating. But like, why do we think it is? Why would it be that men have to work so much harder to get matches and move things like into the real world and into like, the first phase of relationship than women do? Maybe just start there.
Because women are mean and they don't like us.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
I can see that you also did some of your research on that.
No, because okay, so there's like this fundamental like sort of like sometimes presented as biological and sometimes presented as like social thing of like the men are the pursuers and the women are the pursued. So, in those like app playgrounds or whatever settings, that's just gonna be like also show up.
Magnified.
Yeah. And magnified by people's like impulsive behavior that like you've heard the cliche of like men go on dating apps and just swipe right on everybody. And women are much more selective. Which I guess is like informed by the two things are informed by each other. Like the people's behavior are they're interacting in that way to, make it such.
Yeah, there's socialization here, right? Women are taught, we were talking about like slut shaming, for example, and these different cultures that we're a part of. Women are definitely trained to think of like, their sort of sexual currency needs to be protected, right? Our bodies need to be protected. Our sexual currency needs to be protected. So just like kind of going out and being, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, not being super like choosy or selective would be frowned upon. It would be like just kind of bad woman behavior,
Yeah.
So I think that's worth naming.
Right.
I also think that it's worth saying that it feels dangerous for a lot of women who are encountering dating apps for the first time, especially women of my demographic who maybe like got married before dating apps were the norm. It can suddenly feel like an inundation. And some women like that. I've definitely encountered women, especially if they're in marriages where they have felt like sort of sexually unseen or undervalued for a long time. That hit of just like, oh my God, all of these men actually want to have sex with me feels really good. And that is part of the like one of the narratives and tropes that shows up where like sometimes men will be like, whoa, all of these people actually want to have sex with my dumpy wife who I'm not turned on by anymore. And then in turn, there's this experience of like the men seeing the value of the women they're married to.
People talk about their sex lives being rekindled,
improved
just
and
by
stuff. Yeah.
That like before anything even happens outside the relationship.
Right. So I think those things are going on. But also outside of intimate, romantic, and sexual connections, women are really socialized to curate themselves for the world, to be thinking about how they're being perceived, to make social interactions easeful for folks, to turn themselves out looking good. I don't think that you have the same thing going on with men who are in marriages for 20 years. Like women can be in marriages for 20 years and they are still like maintaining this kind of, I'm trying to think of like a non-valued way of saying it. It's like, we're still being judged by how we look. We're still being judged by how nice we are. We're still being judged by how good of a time people are having with us. And monogamous marriage doesn't change that. So we're still kind of like engaging in those skills. And then when you open up, that sort of benefits you,
That is interesting that like even the way that stuff would carry over, and maybe it's just because it's like you've been doing it forever before you were, as a woman, like you're doing it before you're even like know that you're doing it in pursuit of a romantic partner, or maybe you're not. And so once you're again not, because you're in a monogamous marriage, like you're just still going to keep doing it.
You're going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And you can see it with like kids who we know, where it's like definitely girl children or children assigned female at birth. They are so aware of their appearance and how people are perceiving them at such an earlier age, you know? And so there's just like that adds to what the experience is for a couple opening up and dating for the first time. And I think sometimes there's a steep learning curve for men who are just like, oh, wait, I'm being evaluated in these ways that I haven't been evaluated for a while. And it takes them some time to come online with it.
Yeah. Well, and then men are socialized to like find their value in their individual performance more so, I think, than their appearance. And maybe that kind of exacerbates this problem almost, because then also you're like, oh, I got a bunch of hard data on my performance on these dating apps and it's not good. You know?
Right. And it's
I think
discouraging for them.
Yeah. And I think that, I guess if I'm remembering back to when I first went on dating apps, when we opened our relationship, like I was like it was a dramatic turn from being like, okay, this is something that I'm not allowed to do to something that I am. And the gap between like being able to do that and then realizing like how hard it was very surprising, you know, because when you're thinking about like, well, I could never go on a dating app, that would be cheating. Then you're just sort of like imagining, you know, you're not imagining like the problem that you're going to have next week when you're on a dating app, which is going to be like not having a lot of engagement. So I think it comes as a surprise.
Yeah. So I would say that's phase one.
Yeah.
And that's about as far as this article got. So
Sure. Yeah.
they don't really go beyond phase one, where they're interviewing a number of women who are like, it's great after years of, you know, being seen and feeling like a domestic drudge. Suddenly, tons of men want to lick my pussy.
I mean, it's also crazy because they're in a quad relationship where the women are still doing all the domestic drudge.
I know, right. And the emotional labor.
And it's
which,
only one other guy who's licking her pussy, who is,
Right,
you know,
right.
her husband's girlfriend's husband.
So we're kind of leaving the article now.
Yes,
Like I just
let's
wanted
please
to say
leave it, yeah.
that's all there really is in that article, and all there is to say is that they're like, stage one, we have examined it through this very specific quad couple, and we have determined that women are benefiting from non-monogamy.
Right.
Although, wait, before we leave the article, can I also just say that in the article, both the women were still managing the calendars of the men they were married to, including like the domestic duties of their lives. And the women were just like, oh, it's a little bit easier because now there's two women doing it together instead of one woman doing it alone.
Yeah. The opening anecdote of the article was like one of the couples needing to reschedule a date, and basically the two wives just managing the entire schedule of this man's date with one of the women, you know, and like childcare and all of that. But it was like my jaw was on the floor.
So this article is silly. It's like I money, marbles, and chalk is what my mom would always say when she was betting something. So that's a weird idiom. But my bet is if you go back and see what's going on with this couple or these two couples in 3 years, you're going to get a really, really different picture. Maybe even in 2 years, you're going to get a really different picture. So
Yes.
we're picking up there.
Yeah. So what is I guess there's like the sort of men have it harder in this very first phase of how many likes they get on dating apps, and then what happens next.
I'm really trying to think about like what happens next, you know? And there's my story, and then there's the story of couples that I work with, and they're a little bit different. So I'm just like trying to determine which place I want to go next. I think I'm going to stay with the couples for now, and then maybe we can go back and talk a little bit about our personal experiences. What I observe, and again, this is a self-selecting group of folks who come to me, you know, there are certain demographics, they're struggling, so they're in couples therapy, right? But the next phase tends to be often the man will find someone and get in a very serious relationship very fast.
Yeah.
Like just, you know, if I were to set my watch to it within 6 months, you know, for the first 3 months, I'm hearing a lot about how their wife is going out on tons of dates and they're not. And then around 6 months in or even less, they found someone and they're escalating very quickly.
Possibly like the first person they went on a date.
Possibly like the first person they went on a date with. Yes, absolutely.
And possibly that person is a younger woman who doesn't have a family.
Yes, correct.
Who sees value in the man because of all of the like established sort of family things that he has going on. And
also feels, I presume, very different for the man because instead of like the dynamic of a middle-aged couple where the woman has like had the experience of having children and being married for a long time and all of those pressures and some of those dissatisfactions, which I'm sure, well, I know because I'm a therapist and also a person, men can internalize, right? And then start to resent that they feel that way in regards to their partners. It feels good to be with a young woman who hasn't ridden that ride yet, if you will, and is still has a light in her eyes. To quote Mad Men.
yeah. Yeah, and like, I mean, that is close to my personal experience. Like, I pretty much did that when we first, like, the third person I went on a date with, maybe the second person I went on a date with, I was in a, 2.5 year relationship with, and they, like, fit that profile.
Yeah. So I would say that's phase 2 for the men. And then they really are getting on board with polyamory. That's the beginning of their sort of like, oh, wow, this is the light. This is the truth. This is the way, everybody should do this. I am a convert. There's like an arc there, but like this is the beginning of that story for the men usually, in my experience. Now, what is happening with the women? Right?
I don't know.
Really?
No, I'm kidding.
What do you observe? I've talked about what I observe about the men. It's your turn. What do you observe about the women? And I'll tell you if it aligns with what I see in my practice.
Well, I think it maybe can go more different ways. I mean, obviously it can go more different ways for men too, but I mean, one thing would be like really like kind of like embracing the freedom of like promiscuity and responding to all of that like positive male attention with like, obviously like engaging with a very small percentage of it, but still, like dating kind of a lot of people and being like, oh, I'm now free to do this. Nobody can tell me that I can't.
Yes.
Society can't. My husband can't.
Yes.
Because this was his idea, presumably in the first place. And
I don't always see that in my practice.
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily true, but to use a cliche.
But I definitely see this stage with the women,
right?
Whether they initiated or the husband initiated, the husband's like falling in love with the younger woman, and the wife is like, I don't give a shit because I am out here living my best life.
Right.
Like I'm having sex. I'm like, what's a sex party? I'm like, I'm exploring kink for the first time. What's a kink? Oh my God. Fuck you, mom. Fuck you, dad. Fuck you, God. Here I am.
Yeah.
Yes.
The fuck you, God. Yeah.
I mean it.
Well, and so that I think is a similar, it's a not dissimilar like experience of like having your value renewed. Just like the man is feeling like, oh, this like younger woman who I'm dating appreciates me in ways that my wife doesn't. Maybe the woman is feeling the same thing. Like, oh, all of these men out here appreciate me in the ways that my husband doesn't.
Phase 2. I would actually call this a kind of honeymoon phase for a lot of couples. I would also like to put a pin in how we did not experience this as a honeymoon phase necessarily.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a dramatic honeymoon. Like
it's a dramatic honeymoon, but
I feel like individually it is, but for the original relationship, it's not.
Typically, nobody gives a shit about the original relationship in this stage, which is like, as a therapist, that's what I'm always kind of like, hey guys, I know you're having a really good time. Just a reminder that there is this like third entity and it's your marriage.
Right. So, will you talk about how your experience was different in that phase? Because like, it seems like you kind of did that. You were like...
Sounds like you're going to tell me about how my experience
You were getting busy on park benches and shit.
Okay, that was one story, but it gets a lot of airtime.
Is that true?
Yeah, it is true. It is true that happened.
Okay.
My experience was a little different, though. I wouldn't say that I experienced a honeymoon phase with like the fuck you, mom, fuck you, dad, fuck you, God. I'm out here and I'm loving it and living my best life. I experienced elements of that. I was like very turned on by all of it. Like, let me just be clear. Like, probably the sexiest period of my life, honestly. Super sexy between you and I, super sexy, just like I was like turned on all the time. You know, I was excited about sex for sure. And like was experiencing some of that, like, oh my God, there's a lot I haven't done. But it mingled with like some activation around trauma for me that really flavored the experience a lot. So it wasn't like the kind of carefree hot girl summer that I'd hoped for. It would be like glimpses of that. There'd be a park bench at midnight, and then there would be like a flashback or, you know, a spiral or an anxiety attack. And I didn't, in the beginning, I was like, I don't really know what this is connected to. It was just like they were kind of happening simultaneously. And I was having like these mental health challenges alongside doing this. So I would say that was how my experience was a little bit different. I also,
Which I'm sure is also common.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it is. Yeah. I hear more about that in individual sessions with women and less about that in relationship and couple sessions with women. There's probably a reason for that. I also just wanted to name that I was really, we were in a really vulnerable place in our lives at that time because we had very young children and I had lost my job and was going back to grad school. So I think I had a lot of fear about you leaving me. That doesn't always characterize this stage for couples when they open up when their kids are older or they're older. So just wanted to name that also kind of colored some of it for me.
Yeah, and I bet that we kind of laid out the enthusiasm path, and I bet that the less enthusiasm path is also common, both like in connection to past trauma and maybe also like kind of like inversely to how like repressed you had been sexually prior to opening the marriage, whether you got married really young, sort of like we did, but like, or whether you were like in a high control religious context that meant that you like didn't have much experience, like casting the shackles off of something makes you more excited. And if you're have already been around, then maybe your enthusiasm about dating and male attention would be lower.
Yeah, maybe that would be true. I wouldn't say that I'd been around though. I think though I hadn't been raised in a religious setting, I hadn't had a lot of sexual experiences.
I wasn't talking.
Okay. Just to be clear.
If you've been around the block like Sarah, let me tell you.
Okay. No. Well, also it's complicated by being queer and coming out at the same time. So that was in the mix in the sense that I had a lot of internalized homophobia and was struggling with some of that and didn't have the I really wanted to date women. I really wanted to sleep with women, but it didn't have that same, I mean, I wish I could have brought the fuck you mom, fuck you dad, fuck you God energy to that. But I was just still kind of like, can I do this? Am I this? Is it okay? Am I fucking up? How do you do this? Who do I talk to about this?
Yeah.
You know?
Huh. Do you think that's just personality stuff?
Sure. I think it is personality stuff. Yeah. But, as we were talking about earlier going into this episode, I feel like you could characterize this entire podcast and maybe my whole career for the past 6 years as me trying to make the argument that it's not just my personality flaws. It's connected to some sort of larger political or social or cultural trend. And depending on the day, I think you could apply either lens. Yeah.
I didn't say flaws for the record.
Or personality, what is the neutral word for that? Characteristics.
Yeah. Well, and I was talking about my own as well. Like being like more like analytical, self-questioning, stuff like that. Like I think also, sounded kind of like what some of what you were describing with like your approach to like being out as queer. Like you're asking like, am I allowed to do this? You're not just like, this is me now, blah.
Well, and there are consequences. Like, it's worth saying that at that time, not because I came out to them. I mean, I had come out to them younger and they had rejected the coming out. My family did have a huge negative reaction to finding out that I had come out as queer and poly. So it wasn't like it was just this totally neutral experiment. It was like, you know, it felt bad in that respect, is what I would say.
Yeah. So, and you're saying you think that that your experience is kind of like you're struggling with the question, have been struggling with the question of like whether your orientation and experience is unique to you or whether it is like reflected in like
Yeah. I mean,
more, universal social.
right. And you can't
dynamics.
really universalize anything, even
Yeah.
though I love to try, and we do it a lot on this podcast. But just identifying that these are like some stages that people go through inside this larger question of, is it easier for men or is it easier for women? Like, who's in charge of opening up? That we can identify that there are some like
Yeah.
phases to it. And of course, inside of each one of those, there's going to be a unique constellation of circumstances that change that a little bit. And I just named what some of mine were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you identified that we're like phase 2, men fall with younger women, women are out there living their best lives, soaking up some sexual validation and really enjoying it, I'm actually going to turn this over to Jessica. Jessica, what would you identify as phase 3? You've lived with us throughout all of this. You've been in very like poly communities. You've been producing this podcast. I don't know. If you had to identify it, what do you see?
Gosh, great question. I didn't prepare for this pop quiz, so
Even better.
so this will be off the top of my head. But I mean, I feel like in my observation of couples who have started out monogamous and then opened up, like it feels like there is a more settled state that they will often reach. And, obviously it looks really different for everyone, but I feel like for a lot of people that will just kind of look like multiple longer or medium term relationships. And that's sort of like, takes up a chunk of their relationship space. And then like anyone who is living the dating life, like whether you're, single, monogamous, searching for a life partner or poly, like you have periods of time when you do a bunch of dating and periods of time when you're like, fuck dating, I hate it. Or periods of time when you're like, I'm so busy and fulfilled in all of my relationships that I don't need to be dating. But it's sort of like, yeah, settled is how I would describe where, I don't know if it's phase 3, but where people sometimes get to and, don't stay permanently, but.
Right. I would agree with you that what happens is both couples tend to find longer term, more serious, more attached relationships, both members of the couple, right? And then you settle into a world where that's happening, where both people are in some variation of a more steady relationship with someone else or multiple someone else's. Would you say that's true, Al?
It's not the first thing that came to mind for me.
What
Yeah.
what came to mind for you?
Well, like on the man side, if we're just like charting this, hypothetical average
composite
path,
couple, yeah.
that relationship there would be in the secondary relationship, there would be some kind of like tumult or drama, perhaps inspired by the man trying to start another relationship. And like, I guess sort of more, rather than just like replicating kind of monogamy in parallel with two people, as weird as that sound, I do think it's kind of a thing, with one person who you have like a really long standing, like entangled on multiple axes relationship, and then a sort of new, more dynamic romantic relationship. Then in starting another one, that second one becomes threatened or it becomes threatened in some other way because of something else that person has going on. Perhaps like, there's like the pressure for escalation there that that person wants in their life, and, the man can't deliver it because of his other responsibilities. And then, so it doesn't feel like sustainable, really. And I think that usually it does result pretty quickly not pretty quickly, but within a matter of like years in some kind of like drama or split.
Split between the husband and the secondary, or the husband and the wife.
And becoming the husband and the secondary.
I think it can go either way.
Yeah, I guess I haven't personally observed
Yeah.
the other one, but I'm sure it does happen, yeah.
Yeah, I think it can go either way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess this is, you can tell that we're getting into murky territory where there's so many exceptions that it kind of points that there's no rule.
Yeah.
But if we're pulling ourselves back to what we're exploring, who's having the better experience, easier, whatever. I know that's a silly premise, but I think it provokes interesting conversation. What I observe about women at this phase of opening up, maybe they're a couple of years in, some of these things that we've described have happened, is they start feeling like some of the same dissatisfactions that they experienced in their original or in monogamous relationships start surfacing again. Whether that's a sense of being like kind of unseen or emotionally undersupported, or I think in poly what will often happen is a man that they're attached to starts seeing someone else, and then that relationship feels like it's getting less. The woman is like, I feel like I'm getting less now, or I feel threatened by this, or this is not as fun as I thought it would be. And then there's like a struggle to be able to move through that and talk about it functionally. And so some of the kind of like more, we would call them like old fashioned resentments are coming back, where.
In that secondary relationship.
Yeah. And this is where I often am doing work with individual women in polyamory around this point, where they're just like, oh, I'm realizing that polyamory and having this additional relationships with men outside of my marriage has not actually solved some of the core challenges that I have with men.
It's just moved them over into another relationship.
It's moved them over into another relationship.
Yeah. I feel like another thing that I've heard, however, is that all of that being true, it has released the pressure on the primary relationship to some extent. And so like less of a feeling of like, my husband does this thing that drives me crazy, or he's not giving me these things that I want, and I'm frustrated about that, to like, that's all still true, but I don't really care anymore. And he's distracted with his other partner, and so am I. And so I feel kind of better about that. Like I feel less about it in general, but the angst is not over there in the primary relationship.
Well, I think that happens for a while, but then what I observe and what I have experienced is you find yourself, all rivers lead to the same sea of feeling those resentments with men. Now you're just, that sea is being fueled by 3 tributaries instead of one.
It's a sea of men rather than an individual man.
Right, exactly. And that is where I believe, like, from a therapeutic standpoint, is where the real work actually begins. When it comes to, because I'm an attachment-based therapist, this is where we're getting into what are your attachment woundings? How are they gendered? What have some of your experiences been here that are now popping up? And you're kind of through the honeymoon phase with polyamory, in your marriage with polyamory, and now we're ready to find some stuff out about ourselves.
So what I'm hearing you wanting to say here, I think, is that attachment woundings are gendered.
Yes.
Maybe not inherently, but like often they are. So say a little bit more about that.
I would love to, but I have to pee first.
Okay.
But just to put a pin in it, daddy issues. Okay, that's where I'm going.
Okay. So, coming back from the break.
Daddy issues.
Daddy issues.
I came back from the break with daddy issues.
What happened in the bathroom?
Well, Alex, you were asking me if I thought if attachment wounding was gendered, and I do. And it applies to this conversation because in my observation, as you move through the stages of opening up a marriage, you eventually get to this place where probably both members of the marriage, but we're going to talk about women specifically for a moment, realize that all the issues that caused them to want to open up the marriage to begin with have come back for them in some way, shape, or form. So that is to say, polyamory has not saved them from the struggles that they have in intimacy with men or the sometimes negative and disappointing experiences they have. And at that point, from a therapeutic standpoint, we get to get into the real business because that's where people are really confronting themselves and seeing, aha, maybe the thing all of these things have in common are me or men or patriarchy, right? But that there's not some salvation. There's not some man I'm going to meet that doesn't act this way, some intimacy I'm going to have that doesn't provoke these feelings in me. I have to deal with them. I got to look at them, right?
So you're saying it's just never going to happen that I will meet a man, he will complete me, and then I will feel like a perfect whole, like missing piece scenario?
You will feel that way for 3 to 8 or 12 months if it is a trauma bond. Yes.
Yay.
So, which pill, red pill, blue pill, I don't know. Just know which one you're choosing, I guess. So I do think it's gendered in the sense that for the most part, women in our culture were raised in families where men had traditional patriarchal roles and acted in traditional patriarchal and sexist ways. And everybody will say like, my dad cooked, or, my dad took me to ballet, or,
That is literally what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
My dad made weeknight dinners a lot of laundry.
My
Lunches.
mom actually made more money, or, whatever it is where there's like some structural reason why people will be like, actually, I wasn't raised in a patriarchal household. And my argument is, yes, you were.
Yeah, I think that stuff does make a difference somehow. I don't know if it makes that much of a difference when it comes to like attachment wounding and stuff like that. But the patriarchal stuff is still under, like, you could say all of those things about my parents, and also my parents had intense like tension around like my dad's potential promiscuity and my mom's like resentment of that.
Yes, exactly. That's a perfect example. I was raised in a more traditional household in this way, in that my father had more education, was the person who made more money or was in charge of the family business. My mom, had only a high school education, didn't ever really make her own money, spent much of her time working domestically and with the kids, or kind of in helping the family business. So in that sense, structurally, my family was more traditional that way. But taking your families as examples, I knew both of your dads really well, and I loved them both, and think of them often and fondly. Also, both of them were very sexist. They were, like, outwardly, not subtly, very sexist. In some cases, your dad talked about the way women looked compulsively, including me and every woman I ever introduced him to,
Yeah, for sure.
So that was, if we just took that one example, that was the soup that you were growing up in as the normal behavior for men. Whether you thought that it was just fine or you rejected it, it was definitely informing you. And your sister as well, right? Or in the case of your dad, bless his heart.
Bless his heart.
Because he really was committed to being a feminist man. And I see that more in him than probably most men of his generation that I ever met. So I think big credit where credit is due there. Also, he fucking slut shamed us on the regular.
Oh, man.
When we were growing up.
Yeah.
It was just like, if there was a boy over and he'd had too much to drink, we were going to get an earful about how we were misbehaving with boys and it was unacceptable.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like my dad went through some kind of panic basically throughout my entire teenage years. He was losing his shit, and he was so freaked out about
that. Yeah.
Definitely.
And it turned into like, you know, if he was drinking, then like it would be anger. Or, you know, he would just tell me these like terrifying tales, and like there were so many restrictions on what I was allowed to do, and I got grounded all of the time, all of which like my younger brother never had a curfew and never got grounded.
That's right.
In his entire
That's right.
childhood.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. In the case of my family, much to be said, but just to give like another flavor of this, my dad really believed and acted like he believed that men's voices were more important than women's voices, that they were more intellectual, that women were more emotional, that they really couldn't be trusted, that their intellects couldn't be trusted in the same way, and that there was this kind of like, oh, women, they exaggerate, women, they're emotional, women, they like aren't able to have rigor and inquiry in the same way that men can. And this played out inside my family in a million different ways, right? So back to attachment wounding. I'm not going to diagnose the two of you, but you can see how that one piece of patriarchal influence in my life has shaped my entire life.
Right.
My entire career, every career that I've ever had, every way that I've ever interacted with a man, everything I've ever done has been influenced by trying to disprove that assumption, trying to be an exception to that rule, which I internalized and believed. So, yes, I think that attachment wounding is incredibly gendered. And if you grew up believing that you were of lesser value and having that shown to you and having that reiterated to you by one of the people who made you, by one of the people who were supposed to care for you and protect you no matter what, it gets into the core of you in a way that is, I think, very specific to the female experience. Yeah. So women are having less fun. Women are having less fun. This is the point where we came to that.
We
conclusion.
won the oppression Olympics in this case.
Well, I really don't want to question the rigor of your inquiry now.
Yeah, you just fucking
So
try.
you just
The
named that
academic
as-
study that we just did.
And I've got like all of my little Psychology Today citations right here. I'm just ready for anything, right?
I just have notes that say don't question rigor of inquiry. I am curious about what are mommy issues? How would you describe mommy issues?
So,
Because
okay,
I
let's
think
keep
that
this-
the things that
yeah.
I was writing down when I was thinking
Yes,
about
yes.
what
Yes.
the men's experience is are reflective of that.
Oh, I'm so excited that we're talking about
In
that
phase
too.
3.
In phase 3. So to pin this back to what we're talking about who's having a better or a harder time in non-monogamy, men or women. Yeah. And we've decided to explore that question by identifying like the phases of opening up and what kind of happens, right?
Yeah.
And so evaluating sort of phase by phase.
Yeah.
In phase 3, people have recognized that they have patterns, right? And again, we're in a very gender binary world. We're talking about a lot of archetypes here. And I just want to recognize that we're doing that. And that's what this conversation is about today. But
yeah,
we're also all queer here. So we could have a very different conversation centering that. So I recognize some of these patterns pretty quickly. I experienced a lot of fear around men and intimacy, but the response that I had was like an anger response that made me like lean into danger instead of away. And then I would spiral afterward and be like really angry and like not want to have anything to fucking do with them. So that was like one of the patterns that I noticed that was super fun and cool. And then as I got more involved in relationships with men, I recognized that I had this pattern of really withholding like attachment, being very, very nervous about showing my true self to them. And then if I did in any way, like you could see how this is my attachment wounding, and I perceived rejection, I bolted. So that was a pattern that I started to notice. Daddy issues. What were some patterns that you noticed
For myself?
for yourself from a male perspective, phase 3?
Yeah, I think, or yeah, maybe it's even phase 4, but like the ongoing challenges or like the coming back to the center of like what is what is actually going on internally for you that these first 3 phases like are kind of masking with novelty.
Well put.
That your continued like pursuit of new relationships, my continued pursuit of new relationships created problems in all of the old ones or all of the existing ones.
All the old, withered, wrinkled relationships.
All the crony ones.
all the sea hag
God.
relationships.
Yeah, you're not gonna let this go, huh? Nope. All my old lady partners didn't like. No, so yeah, that there would be like tension there, and that would be either the actual source of that tension, or my perceived source of that tension or challenge, or like the reason that the relationship would end would be like I'd start some new thing and the person wouldn't like it. Maybe like more writ large, like the existential problem.
Yeah, what about the mommy issues, though?
Well,
Okay, we're getting there? Great.
I think that's partly... Okay, if I was going to like unpack the mommy issues, I don't know if this is everybody's mommy issues, but this is my mommy issues.
Let's start with yours.
Okay, so mom is unhappy, perhaps because of her relationship with dad. And so it feels really good to me to make
Mommy happy.
mommy happy. Sounds weird when you say it like that, but make women happy. Also, women who are in relationships with other men, being the good man feels really good.
I'm not my dad.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm the alternate man that would have made mom happy.
Exactly. And I want to keep making more moms happy.
You sure do.
Yeah. Literally.
It's the good boy.
Literally, my dating profile is here to make more moms happy.
For a while.
Not literally.
Until another mom comes along.
Mom comes along who's even less happy than you. And maybe more broadly, what I was going to say when I was thinking about men in general and like that archetype that we were talking about is like if it's like the woman's experience is she finds the same dissatisfaction with her male partner again and again, or with her male partners again and again. The men's experience is maybe like your female partner's dissatisfaction with you continues.
Right. It shows up again and again.
It shows up again and
Suddenly
again.
you're no longer the good boy. You've been working so hard to be the good boy, the exception, the exceptional man. And here you are again, the dog.
Yeah. But maybe there's also, I think that's maybe true for me, but there's also a version of that is like the like loser man, or the, you know, like the failure man. Like if your archetypal relationship or your wound is like, I'm not good enough. And then you end up in that place in your marriage, and then you get into another relationship, and that's going to show up again. You know, so there might be just different versions of it, is all I'm saying, of the wound. But
phase 3, it's great. It's really good for my business. So
phase 3.
Thank God for
the sweet
phase
spot,
3.
Huh?
Phase 3 bought this house.
Yeah.
No, no, actually,
My dad, basically.
your father's death bought this house. And now we're dragging him on a podcast. But you know what? I feel like he would appreciate it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So that's kind of all I know. Honestly.
We've reached the end of Sarah's brain.
I mean,
Good luck, everyone.
if we left the article that was the prompt at phase 1, and then we moved through like kind of my knowledge of this and experience personally and professionally through phases 2 and 3, that now we're in uncharted territory.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I want to get back to some of your studies that you so rigorously inquired into. And
There's a lot of show notes on this one.
Yeah. No, because I think what showed up in those was they're not studies about polyamory specifically, but they're studies about the dynamics and relationships between men and women that also show up in polyamory and aren't actually changed by it very much.
Yes.
Or maybe are at the root of some of this stuff. So one of them is about like lack of empathy or imbalance in empathy in marriage. And it referenced another article that says that a study that showed that women get a dopamine hit when they engage in pro-social behavior, while men get a positive hit when acting in their own interest. Which, yeah, I was like, I made that face too. I was like, I don't know if that's true for me. That's fucking intense. Like,
pausing here for a moment. this is a huge issue, and it comes up so much in couples therapy. It's also well documented, to kind of make this political. It's well documented that the more privilege you have, the more of an empathy gap you have to overcome. So they've shown this
Regardless
between
of gender?
well, they've shown this to exist between like white people and black people. White people exhibit an empathy gap when it comes to everything, basically, in regards to, not just in regards to black people, but if you were to compare the two populations.
Uh-huh.
So there's something also about privilege in our culture that discourages people from engaging in empathy. And I wouldn't presume to
Yeah.
know all of what that is, but that is a kind of like proven fact. The empathy gap is
Yeah.
something that's been studied and mapped to privilege.
And I guess I was sort of referencing this earlier when we were talking about it, like when you're saying that men feel good when they like measure their achievement, and women feel good when they measure their
Connection.
Yeah. So then that study goes on to say, the article goes on to say, research shows that men are just as capable of empathy as women, but they don't demonstrate their empathetic skills unless they're explicitly motivated to do so.
Correct. And that's what shows up in my sessions.
Like the motivation to do so, or the lack of motivation.
It's like there's a scarcity of empathy. I don't understand it. Like, again, we're kind of in uncharted territory here. And it definitely comes up in poly, but more broadly, this issue that men tend to act like something is kind of being taken from them if they're asked to empathize with a woman's experience. And that, as you might imagine, in intimate relationships, really exposes attachment wounding related to the father. Because as we identified earlier, that wound is that you are less human, you are less valuable. You are not as fully human as me. And so that experience then gets replicated in men like not expressing empathy and sort of emotional curiosity about women's experiences in intimate partnership.
Yeah, and I don't know that this article is talking about that lack of empathy specifically in that context, but just in general. But it sounds like you think maybe it shows up more specifically in that context.
All I'm saying
Is that what an empathy gap is? Is the gap between the amount of empathy that I have as a man and that you have as a woman, or is the amount of empathy the gap between, or is it the gap between the empathy I have for you?
two things.
Yeah.
Two things are happening. First is that it's just scientifically proven that the more privilege you have, the less empathy you seem to be able to engage in and demonstrate. That's just happening, right? And I haven't done a deep dive into that, so I don't know the reasons why, but we know that that exists. Then I'm identifying that in my work as a therapist, this issue comes up a lot around attachment wounding. So if you're in phase 3 and you're with, your original relationship, this stuff is going to start coming up where women are like, I am having these bad experiences, or I'm noticing these patterns, or I'm getting more in touch with this like wounding. And I want men in my life to kind of like heal that, witness it, like be in it with me, support me. And they're not getting it,
Right.
And that's all I have to say about that.
Well, okay. So I think it relates to the other study in an interesting way, which I will try to come back to after I summarize the other study, which is talking about the imbalance between men and women in the benefits of relationship and emotional support they receive. And basically saying that, I guess specifically saying men lean on romantic partners for emotional support and intimacy more than women do, which is why they put more effort into establishing relationships, benefit more from relationships, initiate fewer breakups, and have a harder time after breakups. Men behave this way, that people doing the study argue, because they have fewer emotional and social supports outside their romantic relationships relative to women, and thus are more dependent on their romantic partners to meet many of their needs. So, like, maybe leaving that last bit aside a little bit, just saying, like, the men are more reliant on the relationship. So I feel like this is starting to get to the part of like the men are not lacking in the empathetic skills. They're not employing the empathetic skills that they have until they're motivated to do so. Motivated to do so by trying to preserve the relationship that they're extremely reliant on.
Interesting. It's like very it atomizes empathy to this point where you're like, are people always engaging in empathy as a way to get something? Does that matter? This
Well,
is
and is this something you're getting just like the positive vibes of
yeah,
the way you were
right.
socialized?
I don't think it really matters.
Yeah.
That just gets me back to being like a 9-year-old reading like Archie comic books and identifying with like the different women and being like, I want to be good like Betty, but is Betty actually good? Is anybody actually good? Am I good? Anyway, can you believe that I wasn't raised Catholic? That's crazy, right? I went to Catholic school for 2 years and that's all it took. Anyway,
They really got it in
Midge is actually
those 2 years.
Midge was cool because she had short hair.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does this like kind of empathy gap or like the emotional reliance that men have on romantic relationships? How is this showing up in who's having a better time in poly? Do you think?
Well, I mean, I guess it would be maybe reflective in, I don't know if it's reflective in our own experiences or not, but I certainly could say that like when I've had relationships like end in our poly experience, it's felt very bad. Maybe not like more bad than it has for you, but like it does feel like that part feels true about like being very reliant on them emotionally, even with like as dispersed as they are amongst multiple romantic relationships and amongst like a lot of community relationships and stuff like that. It's like I don't think that I'm like a typical sort of like emotionally isolated man who just relies on
No,
women
definitely
who
not.
he's in romantic relationships with for emotional support. But still,
Yeah.
I can definitely feel that and that like really strong desire to like preserve them. And I named just a few minutes ago that like the tension is typically in trying to create more while preserving the ones that exist.
Why do you think that is? That piece? Because it's like
why am I trying to create more? Or
this was the thing I was trying to find research on that doesn't exist because it's like I feel like the Google results are, Sarah, this is very specific to your fucking relationship anxiety. Nobody else has ever thought about this. But like my curiosity is for poly men, is there a sense that with each new woman you might be in relationship with, there is accumulation of emotional support and satisfaction?
I think it's more elemental than that. It's just like there's a feeling of like a good feeling of like I mean, I don't know if it's like validation, but yeah, maybe this is actually important because when you think about the like original phase 1 stuff, like why are the men just so like, oh my God, there's so many women that I might be able to be in the relationship with. And the women are like, ew, there's so many men that might want to be in a relationship with me. I can't really speak to the second one, but the first one like is a very real feeling that maybe is in fact reflective of like the like relational imbalance that you're talking about. But it's not like you're thinking about it. I'm thinking about it like explicitly in those terms. Like, ooh, another woman whose care I'm going to harvest in a
Right.
non-reciprocal way or whatever. It just like feels good to have a woman care about you.
I bet.
I mean, as you know.
Well, okay, a couple of things.
You bet. Lots of women care about you, Sarah.
Thank you. Yes. No, the things
If you're a woman who cares about Sarah and you're listening, write her an email, write her a text right now.
I feel like
I want
can
your
I
phone to just be like ding, ding, ding.
may
ding.
I just say this? May I just say this? I think that it would feel very good to be cared for by a woman as a man, which is not an experience I will ever have. And that
okay,
is an
yeah,
experience I
yeah.
am genuinely envious of. So can we just acknowledge that distinction and let it exist in the world? Thank you.
That was it.
That was it. That was the acknowledgement of it. The things that come up for me is the mom wounding. That also, as you get deeper into relationships, people see your flaws. You can't be the exceptional boy. You can't be the not your dad, right? There's an impetus to start new relationships where you get to kind of start the cycle over again, because the part of the cycle that feels good to the wounding is the part where you can like perform you're being a good boy.
Yeah, I'm really curious about how true this is outside of this room.
True. It's true.
You feel like
Yeah.
it
I
is
mean,
a
this
thing
is
you've observed in other men
absolutely
than
something
me.
that I
Yeah.
observe in,
Yeah.
because when you asked about the mommy wound, which is also something that I deal with
Yeah.
in therapy, and for the record, women have gnarly mommy wounds too. So
Yeah.
just,
Yes,
you know,
we're just talking about the
we're just talking about the cross-gendered ones right now. That is exactly what I thought of, is that men are trying to be good men, and they often were raised in households where they were told implicitly or explicitly by women that their fathers were not good men. And they
Yeah.
want to be the exception because their mother's unhappiness and dissatisfaction is so painful and threatening.
Yeah.
So I want to say that with like so much care. This is a place where I feel deep empathy for men. And I feel like we have common cause in wanting to dismantle patriarchy. The unhappiness of women is a problem for all of us, you know? And the unhappiness of women is directly linked to patriarchy. Boys long to be close to a mother who is satisfied and respected, right?
Right.
Men long to be in relationships with women who are satisfied and respected, you know?
Yeah, but like the solution to that you're talking about is like a multi-generational one.
Yeah, I
Like,
know.
and like what's so tricky is that in the short term,
I told you that I didn't know what happened in phase 4.
Yeah.
I told you that.
yeah. Because like yes, it would be good.
Totally.
It would benefit like for you to be happy, it would benefit our children.
I mean, I also just long for my mother to have been happy,
Yeah.
you know?
Right. But given that my mother wasn't happy,
And we're not talking like had bad moods. We're talking about many women and like
okay.
generations
Yeah.
of women who
Yeah.
were like really deeply wounded by patriarchy and felt resentment and anger and dissatisfaction as a result, right? Yeah.
Mhm. The behavior that might replicate it further is more immediately satisfying than the behavior that might.
Yeah.
Or I mean, I don't know. Is that true? Like, is me constantly wanting to like treat women in romantic relationships the ways that my dad didn't treat my mom? Is that harmful? Is that perpetuating the problem?
What do you think?
No.
Well, I just mean like there is another phase. Like the wanting to be the corrective dad to your mom is like a phase, but adult relationships that are able to like integrate wounding can meet people as human beings on their own terms.
Right.
And so that also means meeting yourself as a human being,
Sure.
and one who is like flawed and has some of the same flaws as your father and still seeks like love and connection from women.
Right. So I guess you're kind of questioning like whether
There's no right or wrong.
at what point in the like kind of awareness of that do you start healing it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like there's no right or wrong, but that behavior won't heal the wound.
Right.
You know, like it depends on what you're trying to do. It depends
Yeah.
on how you're engaging with phase 4.
Yeah.
You know, if you're like, you know what? No, I'm cool. Like, I'm just going to be repeating these patterns because I sound like I'm being glib. I'm not being glib.
Yeah.
I like what they give me, and the cost is not so high that I want to change.
Right.
Right. And this gets into, or you can be like, no, I see these patterns and the cost of them is too high to repeat them, or I'm really invested in trying to like heal and integrate this wound and understand it better so that I can have different experiences. I think both options, both phase 4 options are defensible and I support them.
Yeah. What is the yin to that yang? What is the like?
That's a great question. I can say what it is for me. I think for me, it's wanting to perform being a perfect woman. And like in the sense of being like very pleasing, very like emotionally attuned, very sexy and very beautiful, right? And hopefully getting men to fall in love with me through those qualities. And then I'm so much those things that I am allowed to be smart and successful and ambitious and still loved. So I like go in for these men where it's like this weird thing where I'm trying to, it just sucks. It's like, I want men to hold my emotions and not call me crazy. And my pattern is trying to be so beguiling that when I show the crazy, they will still love me, and they won't. I show the emotions, they will still love me and not call me crazy.
Yeah.
But it's not a formula that works, and it's not the men's fault. It's mine. It's like I'm trying to heal something that is not acknowledging the other person in the room or even my adult self.
Right. When you say that maybe the crazy part is actually what you're talking about is the dissatisfaction part. Like, I might be being too binary about this, but we're sort of talking about like men's anxiety about their partner's dissatisfaction with them and women's dissatisfaction with
it loops
their
together.
partners.
Yes. And it's often linked to their behavior towards other partners. So in polyamory, like I want to be the best girl, right?
Okay.
There's like best girlism and best boyism. And I want to be an exception to being a crazy woman. And I'm not.
But like, you want your dissatisfaction to be accepted.
I want my dissatisfaction. I want my wounding to be accepted, my dissatisfaction to be accepted. Yeah. And I think that like I can put a bunch in the bank in this weird way where when that comes up, say in previous relationships, a new person will come on the scene, a new younger person will come on the scene, a new more attractive person will come on the scene, a new, seemingly less complicated person will come on the scene. And I'll have all the standard emotions that a woman might have. I'll feel threatened, I'll feel jealous, I'll feel devalued, I'll feel like I'm going to get replaced. And my hope is, this is like the wound talking, the pattern. I'm like, but I put so much in the fucking bank, like so much not being crazy in the bank, so much not being emotional in the bank, so much being sexy in the bank, so much whatever, that I'm going to be able to withdraw a little bit from the bank and be like a stereotypical crazy lady. And then it reacts with their like good boyism. And they're like, oh, she's mad at me because I've done something wrong. And then we're just fucking off to the races. And it's just, I'm having the exact same experience I've had 14 billion times, and that will be had 14 billion more times. And it's just like, I know this play, I know the ending. I just know it so well.
And what you just described is resentment, right? Like I've done so much, I've put so much in, and I can't get that.
I can't get
what I deserve back out.
Any amount back out that feels like it's in balance. Yeah.
Which is probably the same as the resentment in any relationship between a man and woman where the women are like in being pro-social and the men are being self-interested.
Yes.
As
in a patriarchal society where the men are more valued than the women.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So the thing that is weird about this to me is that going up a generation, the way that we described the like sort of inherent wound for the mom, the source of the mommy issue. Don't look at the clock, Jessica. We're almost there. We're almost fucking there.
How very dare you?
I would never.
We've gotten to the bottom of this thing once and for all, and you're thinking about lunch?
As I was saying, the mom wound that is the source of the son's mommy issues is caused by the dad, is directly relative to the dad. But the dad wound that is the source of the daughter's daddy issues is not. Is it caused by the mom?
No, it's the dad.
Also caused by the dad.
Yes, that is where...
Wait, what is it again?
It's just that the person who made you and is supposed to love you unconditionally and raised you thinks that
it's
you're less valuable.
By patriarchy.
Yes, it's caused by patriarchy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So there's the patriarchy up there on that level.
And when
it's not our fault.
And the mother wound is often your mom being more oriented towards your dad and his misbehavior than you.
Right.
So the mother wound also directs back to patriarchy. Mm-hmm. So women and girls are fucking mad. To call it resentment is kind. Mm-hmm. Like from the jump, we've just been told in all these different ways that we are less valuable, less valuable, less valuable. By the time we're adults in intimate relationships with men, it's just this like drumbeat that is influencing so many of our emotional reactions all the time.
Right. And that's when we talk about like that first relationship with a woman without a family or without the light having left her eyes. It's the accrual of that anger or resentment is not there.
Yes.
And as a man, it's like feels good to be looked at in that way.
So you can see, coming back to our original question about who's having more fun in polyamory, I would argue nobody. And of course, it's fun for everybody along the way. And the whole experience is not these types of really distressing themes. But this is what I say at the end of every episode. Polyamory in and of itself does not undo patriarchy. And we have been deeply, deeply, profoundly abused by patriarchy. And women more so. Men also, but like women more so. And that's it. That's the math. So, you know, you were like, well, what do we do? And that is the question that a lot of people ask me. Well, other than like intergenerational healing and like going to therapy, like how are we in relationship with each other, knowing that that's true?
Yeah. Oh, you're going to say the answer? Go ahead.
No, the answer is that I don't know. And like I was going to my like season reveal, end of season reveal is that I've gone off dating apps and intentionally decided to pause dating men, which is really hard for me to even say here because it like kind of breaks my heart. There's not vindication in that. And there's some relief in the sense that it's just like, it's been decided. I don't have to think about whether or not I'm going to have a drink every time. I just don't drink anymore. You know, like in that sense, it feels like there's some relief. But I deeply yearn for emotional and physical and sexual closeness with men. Like it is not a sideshow to my sexuality. It is absolutely inherent to my orientation romantically and sexually. And I don't know how to do it outside of this phase that we've kind of gotten to. And I'm not saying that like, this is not the end of the story for me. Or, you know, I know other people are finding really beautiful ways around that. And I would love to hear their stories of like how they find beautiful ways to be in relationship with all of these themes and each other. I haven't found it. And it became clear to me that there was some more like inquiry that I needed to do, and understanding and self-acceptance and maybe just grieving before I could try again. And that is really hard. And, you know, it's like makes me feel a little bit like it makes me like choke up a little bit. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because you wish that you hadn't come to that conclusion? Or like you feel sad about having come to it?
Yeah, I feel sad about
grief.
I feel sad at the grief that, you know, Jessica, you asked earlier, like, so there's not just like the man I'm going to find that will make me feel seen and whole and healed and appreciated and attuned to in all of these ways. And I was like, well, you will find that man for the length of your trauma activation. That's cynical. I don't mean it exactly like that. It's just that the work of having those types of relationships doesn't feel good all the time. Actually, much of it feels really challenging. It feels kind of like this podcast. There's a lot of long pauses and a lot of people being like, I don't know what to do.
And wondering how long it's going to go on.
Yeah, and when do we get lunch? That I don't regret that Polly got me there. I have a lot of gratitude to polyamory for like, I got underneath some shit with Polly. Like this stuff was acting on me all the time and I didn't know how. And I do actually feel like I know how. I just don't know what to do about it and still be able to be like intimate and close to men or multiple men. That's where I land on the who's having more fun. That's my final argument.
Yeah. It's a compelling final argument.
You guys, is anybody going to come back for season 6? I don't think so.
You must be having less fun because because you quit.
I didn't quit Polly. I did quit men
that
I'm not married to for a minute.
Well, and I think there maybe to like put a more positive spin on that. I think what you were telling me a couple minutes ago was that what's important is to not keep replicating keep, chasing the superficial healing of the wound.
Yeah.
But look for that healing inside of yourself.
Yeah.
Before you're like out there trying to find it in somebody else, which
Yeah.
I agree with in principle, if not in practice.
You're like, I will not be practicing that, but best of luck to you, ma'am.
If somebody asks me, I do know that answer. Okay, so the recorder ran out of space in the middle of something brilliant. And I guess that's a sign that this is the end of season 5 of Mistakes Were Made. Any last words?
Just thanks so much for listening to us. I've been thinking about the arc of this podcast and how wonderful it is that we have listeners who've followed us through the journey up to whatever phase we're in, phase 4.5, and that we've been able to follow too. And it really does make this experience, which is exciting and sexy and fun and sometimes scary and lonely and weird, feel, I don't know, like we got company and we got good company. So a big thank you to all of our listeners for that. Also, I was just informed that this is coming out on July 3rd.
Yep.
So a hearty fuck America.
Fuck America.
From me
It's coming
to
out
all
on the
of you.
last day of America's 249th year.
Wow.
Wow. What phase of bullshit is
May
America
she
in?
rot in hell.
Yeah. Anyway, so, go out tomorrow and maybe do a riot instead of fireworks, or just, point those fireworks somewhere other than the sky. You didn't hear me say that because
Yeah,
they'd
this
probably try me as a terrorist.
This is
I
a
love
joke.
you guys.
Sounds like a conspiracy.
Sure does.
If you're not worried about being charged with conspiracy, email us at mistakescast@gmail.com. And we want to hear about your experiences relative to all the stuff we've been talking about today and more. And we will be back in the fall
Sure will.
for
No,
season
fall.
6
I mean it.
Yeah.
We will.
Oh, yeah.
with some big surprises, some exciting guests,
Oh, yeah.
some critical conversations, all of which we will think about
Deeply over the
deeply
next 2
over
months.
the next 2 months.
Your guys' homework is to go out there and make some more mistakes.
Okay.
We're on it.
Ready.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.